Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today Dan and I are in Ramsgate again, out and about. At the moment it is the Little Ships Festival, which started on the 16th of May with the arrival into the harbour of 70 little ships. So on the 21st of May the little ships are sailing out to Dunkirk. Now this is what happened 85 years ago during Operation Dynamo, when the little ships landed on the Normandy beaches, and they're coming back on the 26th, and that's when the festival culminates. And there's lots of activities going on round and about in the town until that date. Ramsgate, of course, has got a long military history, not just the Battle of Waterloo, but also during the Second World War. A lot of you might have seen the film Dunkirk, and that kind of charts the history of what happened. So we're here outside the Ramsgate tunnels. So we're going to have a little look in the tunnels, and then we're going to walk down to the harbour and see what we can find. So come and join us. Let's have a look around. That's some of the people who actually lived in the Ramsgate tunnels during the Second World War. Ramsgate had a lot of heavy bombing, and at least 4,000 people were down in the tunnels for the next 4 years. And me and my mill, I think it was just after Christmas 2019, met a lovely lady on a mobility scooter who had lung damage because she'd spent 4 years down here in the tunnels as a girl. Anyway, let's take another look.
Where's the girls? Outside in the sunshine.
Was a civilian fisherman who worked as an engineer above the steam fishing trawler Tankerton Towers. Ron lived at Fadeslane Cliffsend. His involvement with the Dunkirk evacuations began when his evening at the pictures was interrupted by a message flashing on the screen. Anyone belonging to Ramsgate trawlers, please report to the Admiralty office at once. Ron went down to the Admiralty office after the film and was told to report, along with his fellow crew members, to the harbour at 5:30 the next morning, 31st of May, as Tankerton Towers was needed. He and his fellow crew took on board 50 French soldiers who were put in the fish hold, and then 3 boatloads of English soldiers were crammed into the remaining space, including the engine room and his own bunk. And this is a picture of the little ships at Dunkirk. So Ramsgate has been centre stage on more than one occasion, not just during the Battle of Waterloo, but also during the Normandy landings, Operation Dynamo. Most troops were rescued by larger vessels and warships direct from the mine, but nonetheless the little ships played a crucial role in supporting the success of the operation. Generations of school children now know the story of how little holiday steamers made an excursion to hell and came back glorious. The evacuations began in earnest on the night of the 26th of May. The Luftwaffe was ordered to continue the offensive with the bombing of Dunkirk on the 27th. The little ships, having assembled, fueled and prepared at Ramsgate, set sail for Dunkirk on the 31st of May. The evacuation provided a symbol of Britain's continued willingness to fight on, embodied in Winston Churchill's speech to the House of Commons on the 4th of June, which included the famous line, "We shall fight them on the beaches." It's really tremendous what actually happened. Without the landings, who knows what fate would have met the French.
It's really nice, lovely day today as well.
You could be in the south of France, couldn't you?
Good indeed.
It's started up a bit overcast and chilly, even spotting the flame is now beautiful, with the sun shimmering off the water. So between 6 AM and 8 AM on Wednesday, the little ships are going to set sail for Dunkirk, and we're only about 30 miles as the crow flies.
You can see the lights of Dunkirk from Ramsgate, especially the steelworks that are on the coast.
It's the same with Ostend as well, isn't it? It's not far.
Not that far. You can't see Ostend, I don't think, but you can definitely see the lights of Dunkirk and Calais. You can see Calais Lighthouse at night.
But we were supposed to be having an Ostend crossing, but that...
From the main ferry terminal beyond the wall. No, they didn't dredge the dock.
And then when they dredged it, the company who had been contracted to do the sailings had no boats.
It's laughable, isn't it?
So that collapsed. That was the year Boris got in. He got in and the deal collapsed, which is typical of politicians. But yeah, you can see France on a clear day from both Ramsgate and from Broadstairs. In fact, when you're down Dumpton Gap, which is the southernmost beach of Broadstairs' 7 beaches, the phone company thinks that you're in France and says, "Welcome to France." But we're not in France, we're nowhere near France, we're still in the UK.
And the time jumps an hour.
Yeah.
And before they rejigged the television aerial, you could pick up TF1.
Yes, I remember that. Faintly, but you can still pick it up.
Yeah. And listen to French radio.
Yes. So we've got a street party along the harbour parade, between the different bars and restaurants, and they've got free live music, which is really good, an arrangement of different well-known songs.
The fish stall is open if you want whelks or cockles, or it's probably sold out of fish, but it's got all the little goodies.
It's just very pleasant, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Funfair,
It's lovely.
handmade markets.
Yeah.
But I don't really make enough things anymore to have enough stock to do at a market. Even though it's a very successful market, I just don't have the stock anymore. We haven't really got room for it. So you've got some flags at the top. You've got England, Scotland, Wales, and you've got the Jack as well. That's nice, isn't it?
And a seagull.
Right.
Here
So
we are.
I've got a pint of Gadd's Sea Cider, 4.3 ABV.
And I have a pint of Gadd's number 5.
And Dan doesn't know what ABV he's got. But single finger head mine was.
Mine's
It's
just,
an amber ale.
mine's just nice and refreshing.
And they asked us whether we wanted a cold glass or a warm glass. This is the Red Lion.
In Ramsgate.
Yes. Very nice pint it is too. So then, Dan, tell me about your great-granddad Percy. He was involved in Dunkirk, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. I don't know much about what he did.
He was on the boats.
Yes, he
went out
was.
with the little ships. But he wasn't stationed in Ramsgate in 1939 at the outbreak of the Second World War.
No, he wasn't.
His wife, who I presume was estranged from him by then, was over in Folkestone.
Phyllis.
Yes, Phyllis, and he was in Deptford. He was a bit of a character.
He was a bit like Arthur Daly in a lot of
Yes, he
ways.
was. And he was known as Uncle Percy for various family reasons. But we'll drink a pint to him.
To Percy.
And you shared the same birthday, didn't you?
Yes, we do.
Which I think is rather unusual. But the one difference is you're not at all like Percy.
No, I think I'm a bit more honourable, a bit more...
Yes.
I'm not dodgy.
He was a character to say the very least. Bless him.
No.
I want to talk about Bill now.
Okay. So your friend Bill...
Yes, well, when I was still in Burton, of course, my partner at the time was Wilfred, who was nearly 30 years older than me. So we used to go to a pub on a Tuesday evening in Hilton, South Derbyshire. And a lot of the old boys in there were keen golfers like Wilfred. And there was an elderly gentleman who used to go there most evenings just for a pint with his dog called Bill. And I got to know Bill quite well. He grew tomatoes. And we went round one evening after a drink and he gave me loads of tomatoes because he just had too many, and I made it into chutney and then I took a majority of tomato chutney. Well, his late wife had been a nurse during the Second World War, and he'd served as a medic with the parachute regiment during the Second World War. So he had a red beret, and he also took part in the Normandy landings, and he was such a lovely gentleman. He passed away some years ago now. Time flies fast, and it must be getting on for 15-20 years since he passed away. But I often think about Bill. He was a lovely chap. You would have liked him.
Yeah.
You would have got on with him. He showed me his photo album from a trip that he'd made to Arnhem as well, which was really nice to see. He'd gone there with a group of veterans, and we often used to talk about the war. I'm very interested in the history of the Second World War, particularly social history, and I'm into all the 1940s stuff. So we had quite a lot in common. We just used to sit there with our pints and often talk about the war. So here's to Bill as well. Cheers to Bill.
Here's to Bill.
reunited with his wife. He was well into his 80s when he passed away. He had a stroke and he was very unwell and didn't really recover from it, so he passed away. This sort of thing reminds me of my great uncle Joe, my nan's brother. Now, he joins the Merchant Navy sometime during the Second World War, and I have a photo of him taken in 1920. It's on his Merchant Navy documentation, and he was a fine young man, and he spent his whole career in the Merchant Navy and actually became a Merchant Navy pilot, so that's somebody who steers the ship. And I have found his military record from the Second World War, but haven't had an opportunity to read it because somebody else who was visiting the National Archives had the file out, so I wasn't able to order it and have a look. But I often think about him, and this kind of thing makes me think about him, and I think he was a fabulous human being, and he had a sad demise. I think he found life very difficult when he retired from the Merchant Navy, and it affected his mental health. Things were never the same for him, bless him. So now he's up at Preston Cemetery, and I'm really delighted that I was able to get him a memorial stone because he didn't have one, and I've got the last letter and photograph that he was sending me nan, and in fact the day he wrote the letter, the last letter to my nan, was the day he passed away from a sudden heart attack and stroke. So he never had the opportunity to come and live with us, and I think that's so tragic, but I'm thinking about him today as well. So to great Uncle Joe, lots of love. Now we're going to the Hobbling Boat Hill, York Street. We haven't been to this one before either. I think they do some good ales in here, so we're going to take a look. So this is a Kent Session Pale Ale, 3.7 ABV, not a great deal of carbonation, but it's nice clear, I would probably say straw colour. Give it a go. It smells quite fruity, it's almost citrusy. I can pick up lemon, it's nice. That's a good one. And you, Dan, yours is a ruby.
I have got 6 acres by McCann's. It's a ruby porter.
It's 6.5 ABV.
It's strong.
You're going to be on your back if you have many more. So we've got...
And it's bloody gorgeous and it tastes strong.
We've got some nuts. And Dan has got pork scratchings.
Some scratchings.
They're really popular in the Black Country.
She says, with the accent coming through. And
I used to work there. So I have a pint of Oakham. This is 4.2 ABV. And Dan has an oatmeal stout from Gads.
And here it is.
Sunshine.
Cheers. The oatmeal stout is a bit more gentle than the
Actually, do you mind paying up rough? We've just
than
got
the other one, the ruby, because it's only 4. Someone standing in front of the. It's a lot weaker, a lot less potent.
4.3?
About that, yeah. About 4.3. The other one was 6.5%, which was very much like a homebrew I made when I was 18, when I was a student, which was bloody strong. And this I can still form a sentence.
You can barely open your eyes though, babe.
Yes, I'm a bit out of it soon, but as I got up at 5:30 this morning to go to a boot fair, I'm turning it round to you.
We're having a bag of mini cheddars.
Mini cheddars, they're lovely, I like mini cheddars.
I think you should always have a snack when you have a drink.
Mm.
On the continent, there's always a snack brought with the drinks to help soak up the drink. And that means you buy more alcohol.
It soaks the booze up.
So it's a clever ploy.
Beer and chocolate always go well together.
You haven't had any more chocolate yet.
No, got some at home. Didn't really fancy chocolate. I don't have a particularly sweet tooth, but I've got a lovely fish and chips.
So, chin chin.
Yeah, cheers.
We've had a lovely afternoon. It's about 6:30 and we've got fish and chips. We've got a fish supper, really.
Nice.
They don't call them fish suppers down south, but we've got hoki and chips ×2 with a carton of mushy peas, and now we're going home and we're going to eat our supper and then just chillax with a cup of tea.
Need that.
So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment. Do you have any stories about Dunkirk? Share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And we will see you again soon for the next one. Until then, bye for now.
Bye.